Hi guys, welcome to my channel, or if you've been here before, welcome back. I'm just popping in to do a quick little intro while I'm literally editing this video from my bed because I'm lazy. I just wanted to firstly say that yes, this is a little bit of a longer video. However, I am going to timestamp it so that you can skip to any certain parts that you want to see. Also, I put the video in order where I'm showing you each part all as a whole. So you might be seeing things in the background that I haven't completed on camera yet. So that's why it's like out of order of how I made it so that you can see each part from start to finish. I also just wanted to say that the reason that I was making this video is that my aunt, when I was little, my aunt had this fancy Scrabble set. It was made by the Franklin Mint. It's like the collector's edition of Scrabble, and it's got gold-plated letters and things like that, made out of wood. And when I was little, I always really liked it. And she had said, she'd give it to me one day, and I was like, I don't know, 10 or 12 when she said that. She's kind of one of those things that I thought she just said, and I kind of forgot about until now. I'm almost 40. And last week she sent it to me, actually all the way from Florida because she has moved to Florida. So I thought that was really kind of her to do that. Plus, she had to spend a lot of money to ship it because it's so heavy. So I thought that I would make her a piece of art to say thank you. And I really like miniatures and working on a small scale. So I thought a dollhouse box would be a fun, pretty thing to make for her. So that's what I did this week. I hope you enjoy. I don't like to be like, oh, subscribe, blah, 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 because I don't usually say that until like the end of the video. But it seems like everybody else says it at the beginning. So I'm going to say that now too and see if y'all subscribe. I don't know. I don't know why I said y'all. I'm not from the South, but whatever. I'm making those faces at you again. Anyway, I look a hot mess. I'm going to get off the camera now so that you can look at something pretty. Oh, I lied. I just tested the audio for this video, and for some reason, this microphone sounds fantastic when it's plugged into my cell phone, but for some reason, when I plugged it in the laptop and did my voiceover, it sounds a little... Same microphone. Don't really know why that's happening, but I have run out of time and I cannot redo this voiceover, so you're just gonna have to listen real closely to hear the next part. Well, you can hear it. It just doesn't sound as nice as this part. Anyway, here we go. Where to start? I got it. Okay, this is all right, but I think it needs something else. Perfect. So I'm going to cut the legs on this desk so that it's a little more proportionate with this chair. This is a jeweler's saw, and no, I don't have it together right, and my blade is a little floppy. Don't judge me. It was my first time using it. I did get a miter box for this thing for the future though, so that should help. Of course, we want to make sure our legs are straight so our table's not wobbly. And the box I'm going to use for this is from Target Dollar Spot, I think. That's that white box there that you see me putting the desk in. I'm going to paint these, and I'm scuffing up the chair a bit because it's plastic, so I think that will help the paint stick. And before I can put a pretty coat of paint, I have to put a boring base coat. So for the desk, I'm going to use cashew, and for the chair, I'm going to use moss, both of which are Waverly chalk paints. And I spared you watching me do the base coat, but I am showing you a little bit of the dry brushing so that you know that I dry brushed. So the desk was dry brushed with white, and the chair is being dry brushed with celery. I'm going to age them a little more using some archival inks by Ranger. I used black on the chair and coffee on the desk. Now this is a really hard DIY, so pay close attention. You take a button from Walmart, you cut the back off of it, it's plastic, so it's pretty easy to cut, and then you sand it. This is from Amazon. I'm cutting off the part where the necklace would go because I won't need that. And then I'm using a scrap piece of plastic to trace out the shape of the inside so that it'll make cutting out my image easier. And this little rose I'm cutting out is just from a piece of mail that I had received. Now once I get this in place, I'm going to seal it with dimensional magic. Although mine wasn't very dimensionally magic or magically dimensional. It was really thin. I think it might have been old. I can't do art with you in my way. Excuse me. Excuse me. Excuse me. Really? Nice view. Oh, thank you for moving. Oh, what are you doing? Don't step in the paint. No, come on. You're getting too close to the paint. These little book covers are some Tim Holtz ephemera. Maybe from the Halloween pack, I'm not really sure. But I'm going to use a scoring board to score the spine so that it will actually fold up like a book should do. And I'm cutting out some thin cardboard to the width of the book. I'll cut it into one long strip. And then I'll cut off a piece that's the size of a page. And I'm going to cover that in wood glue and just keep gluing it to itself until I have the right thickness to fill the book cover. Taking more archival inks, and I'm going to age the book. I didn't really need to do the cover on the inside that much. I was just paranoid it would show, but it really wouldn't. Mostly the edges are what's important. And I'm gluing this on with wood glue as well. I also did put some archival ink on the edges of those pages that I made out of the cardboard. And I did make 2 of these. This is just one of them. You'll see the other one later. This is really simple, but in case anyone was curious, I wanted to show it. This is a cat from the Dollar Tree, and all I'm doing is adding some color to it. It was pure white with black eyes, so I added some ballet slipper pink to the nose and ears, and this light blue color that I don't remember the name of I used for the eyes. I do put some black dots in the center of the eyes afterwards. And then this is Silver Lining, which is a light gray. I'm using it to highlight the fur. And then I'll matte Mod Podge it after to make sure the paint doesn't come off. This is the bottom of the table that went with the green chair you saw earlier. I'm just cutting the top part of it off, and I'm going to use that bottom part for a lampshade. And this is a queen pawn from a plastic chess set, and I'm going to cut off the top. Off with her head! I need that for the bottom of the lamp, so, you know, off with her head. This is a paper clip. I'm going to use it as the crossbar at the top of the lamp. I'm just making sure it's going to stay in place by using some super glue, and baking soda will bond super glue instantly, so that's what I'm doing here. And then I used her head as the top of the lamp. I'm also going to super glue and baking soda that from the bottom to make sure it doesn't fall off. Now my lamp needs to be taller, so I'm using some perler beads to do that. And I want this lamp to be hollow so I can string lights in it, so perler beads were the perfect thing. I'm base coating the parts of the lamp that need to be metallic in black. And I base coated the shade in just the cashew because it was right there. This is bronze, in case you can't see that with the lights on it. It's by Arteza, and I'm going to use that to make a bronze lamp. I'm using the black archival ink after it's dried to age that a little bit as well. Now this is a custom mixed color, which was a complete and utter waste of time because once I mixed it up, I realized it's almost exactly the same as Merlot by Waverly, which I have. So I could have just used that and saved myself the time. I do realize this later and I will switch to the Merlot when I need more paint. So just to make it easier going forward, if I'm using that paint, I'm just going to call it Merlot. Here I'm just adding some embellishment to the lamp. I made the poor decision to Mod Podge on top of the lace and over the whole lampshade, which I ended up not liking later because it's too shiny. So I do go back after and put another coat of Merlot over that to make it matte again. And off camera, I did tuck the bottom of the lace up inside the shade and glue it down. This thimble is going to be a flower pot. I'm putting a base coat of white, and then I painted it with Merlot. Only I didn't show you that on camera. Anyway, these came from Hobby Lobby, and this greenery pick came from Dollar Tree. I'm going to make a floral arrangement with them. And I'm just filling it with hot glue and sticking the greenery into it like it's my floral foam. And I decided it needed a little bit more oomph, so I'm just sticking some baby's breath in there. This is from a greenery pick from Dollar Tree as well. This here is actually a Barbie tea set. However, I did get it at Dollar Tree, so I only paid $1.25 for it. Anyways, it came with 2 teacups and saucers, the teapot and cover, and a tray. But my dollhouse desk I'm using to put it on is so small with the lamp on it, it just would have been too crowded to use the whole set. So I'm just using 1 cup and 1 saucer and the teapot and cover. The rest of it will be saved for another miniature project. And my tea set is going to clearly be white, so I think it did take about 3 coats to get it completely white. And I'm just using various colors of paint to paint on some pretty designs. I'm just following the molded plastic of the original teapot, and I added the flowers. There was no flowers molded into it. For the flowers, I just freehand drew some blobs on there. Because it's so small, you're not going to really notice that it's just blobs and not flowers. I did only do the dots on the plate because those were molded into the plastic, by the way. They don't necessarily go along with a floral set, but I think once it's all together, it looks like it's supposed to be that way. I am going to glue the cover onto the teapot because this is for decorative purposes. No one's going to be playing with it, and I don't want the cover to get lost. Same thing with the cup. I don't want it to go rolling away anywhere. I'm going to make a false wall for the back of this box so that I can light up the window behind it. So I just traced the box onto a piece of copy paper and then measured out how much I needed to trim off to make that fit in the box. And then I used that as a template to cut out my back wall out of a thicker piece of cardboard material. I'm going to be putting a floor in there, which this is the sticks that I'll be using for the floor. So I'm just marking where the floor will come up to so that I can then mark where the desk is going to come up to. And that way, when I'm placing my window, I can make sure that it's not touching the desk. And this window is a sticker from the Dollar Tree. And I'm just pulling off and trimming off the bits at the bottom because I won't need those. I am also going to put a chair rail in here, so this stick is what I'm going to use for the chair rail, so I'm just also marking where that goes. And now that I have my placement, I can mark my window so that I can cut out the hole for the window. And I'm just going around the edges first and darkening the line, but also making the hole a little bit wider than what I traced on there, so that once I cut it out, there won't be any cardboard sticking out and showing through the window panes. And always just test and make sure it looks good before moving on. This is matte Mod Podge. I'm using it to wallpaper. And this is just some craft paper, scrapbook paper that I had in my stash that looks like a tiny wallpaper. So I'm going to glue that down. And I'm only Mod Podging the one side because the Mod Podge is shiny and it'll make it look not like wallpaper if I Mod Podge both sides. And then here I am measuring where I can put my spacers between the back wall and the wall I just made. And of course, as you can see, I added some striped paper at the bottom, but I didn't film that because, you know, I like to forget to film things. So now that I have that all in place, I'm going to put something in the window. And this is a Tim Holtz product. It's a vellum paper. And I just picked out which part I'd like to see through the window, and I'm going to glue it down. I'm using wood glue because that was near me. Generally, that's my approach to gluing unless I know something needs a special type of glue. I just grab whatever's the first thing that I grab. And I am putting some paper too to make sure that that vellum's nicely in place and isn't going to fall off at any point. Now I'm going to put my wallpaper in the box, so I'm just putting my fake wall in temporarily to make sure that my wallpaper was cut to the right size. And I used Mod Podge to glue this down as well. Now I'm drilling a hole in the back to string my lights through. I wish that I had drilled the hole through the bottom. You'll see why that is in a couple minutes. This is going to be my flooring material. These sticks come in a pack from Walmart. They're very similar to coffee stirrers, so you could probably use those too. And I'm just going to stagger them at different lengths so that it looks like a wood floor, as you can see here. And I do need to have a gap there so the wall will go back in. So that little piece of wallpaper you see there was my spacer. So I have my lights strung through and I taped them out of the way so that I can finish my floor. So I'm just sanding off the rough edges. Antique wax by Waverly to stain the floors. And at first I wiped the excess off with a baby wipe, which is a thing you can do. But in this case, it didn't work because it wasn't sticking to the wood glue that got all over the floor. So I do have to go back and paint it again and kind of play with it a little bit to make it look like a floor. I didn't want it to be that shabby. This is shabby chic, but that was too much shabby in my chic. And I wanted to make the garland at the top of the window more three-dimensional, so I'm using some more of those paper flowers. And this time I'm using Fabri-Tac to glue them down, just because it dries pretty fast, so I thought that might be a good option for this. Now I'm marking on the fake wall where the lamp is going to sit so that I can drill a hole in it for the lights. And I didn't show you, of course, again, but I did pull 6 of the fairy light bulbs through the the wall. This string of fairy lights has 20 bulbs, so 6 went through the front. And then for the remaining 14 bulbs, I'm going to tape them around the edge of the window so that it will make the window glow. And I just made sure not to have any of the bulbs touching the vellum, because then you would see the bulb and it would break the illusion. I want it to look like it's light from outside. After that, I am going over it with hot glue. The painter's tape, or what is it called, masking tape, is probably not going to stay sticky forever. So I didn't want that to, fall off and have my lights droop down inside. So I'm just adding hot glue a bunch of everywhere to hopefully give that a more permanent hold. Because if these lights were to fall down and sag, I can't fix them, because once I put the back wall in, it's glued in permanently, and there's no way to get it out without destroying the whole thing. To attach the back wall, I'm using mostly wood glue on all of the blocks around the edges, and then on the one center block, I'm going to use hot glue so that I have that immediate hold, so it will stay in place while the wood glue dries. And I just need to make sure that I slip my wall into that little crevice behind the floor that we created. Now I'm just measuring out the chair rail for the sides of the box, and I will paint those with the moss color. The chair rail is already glued into the back, but I will be adding the sides now. I did realize as well that there was light coming through the crack behind the false wall when I turned the light on, so I'm using the world's tiniest dowels, which are available at Walmart, and I'm going to cover the cracks with those. So I'll paint those moss as well, and then they will just end up looking like some kind of molding around the edges. And here I'm just gluing in my chair rail. I used wood glue for that as well. And then I found it to be easier to put the glue down and then stick the tiny dowel into the glue versus trying to put glue on that little teeny tiny skinny piece of wood. The furniture will all get glued in with E6000. So I'm starting with the table so that I can then get the lamp in place. I'm going to put the fairy lights through the lamp base. And then I'm going to wrap the fairy lights around the top of the lamp so that they're all kind of bunched up together and will sit under the lampshade. And then after I did that, I did take some E6000 and hot glue, and I glued the lamp to the table, and then I glued the shade to the top of the lamp. But I didn't film any of that, of course. These little feet are from Amazon. And I just marked where the screws need to go, and I'm poking a hole, a pilot hole for the screws using this awl sort of tool that I have. That just makes it easier. And then you still use glue even though I'm screwing these in, because I want to make sure that these are not going to fall off.
Hi, Georgie. Hi, Georgie. 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 If you're gonna be in the frame, you should at least be on camera. Or say hi to the people. Say hi.
What is she doing here?
So remember earlier I said I wished I had drilled the hole through the bottom for the lights? Well, this is why. Originally, just on instinct, I drilled the hole in the back, figuring I have to hide the battery pack on the back. But then I realized I put feet on it, so I actually can hide the battery pack on the bottom, which would be much better because you won't even really see it. So to be able to do that, I'm drilling a channel with my Dremel that I can stick the wire into. And I'm just showing here that if you get lights like this, you have to take these second set of screws out to be able to change the batteries. So I'm just taking them out completely and leaving them out. That way I can glue this battery pack down and still be able to change the batteries. And this cover snaps in place, so you really don't need those screws there. And of course, as usual, I didn't show you stuff on camera. So what I did was I used my staple gun and put one staple in the bottom and then glued the battery pack down. And then on the back, I just filled in the channel with some wood filler. And now I'm just sanding that down so it's a little more smooth. It's not perfectly smooth. You can still kind of tell there's a patch there, but it doesn't matter that much. And I'm just painting over that area to disguise it. This is Plaster by Waverly. So I saw this cool method someone did on YouTube, and I don't remember who it was, but I didn't do it right. So I took some tissue paper in white, like the kind that you wrap presents in, and I taped it to some copy paper so that I could print on it. However, it only worked twice and then it wouldn't work again. It kept jamming up my printer. And I think that was because I taped it down. I did end up seeing another tutorial later by a different, I think it was even a different person, and they used a glue stick. So I probably should have glued it down and it would have worked better. I also got some splotches of black ink because of it on the ones that did work. But since this is kind of supposed to look aged anyway, I didn't care about those black spots because I actually end up just rubbing them off because I make some holes in this paper to make it look more aged and distressed. So I am just sticking it down with Mod Podge, and I'm using the brayer, which as you can see right there, it rips it, which you wouldn't want to do that if you were trying to make this perfect, but because I want it to be ripped and aged, it's fine. I'm also using the brayer on the Mod Podge on the top coat so that it doesn't show brush strokes. It shows more of like a textured, crackly pattern. And then for the back, I just cut out 2 of the large roses as my background. And then I'm going to use this other print out of a teacup to go on top of that. And all of these printouts that I used came from graphicsfairy.com, and they are free printables. These are supposed to be book corners, but I use them as box corners. So I just bend up the little sides there, and then I'm going to use some E6000 to glue them down. And my E6000 looks really gross and goopy because the tube has a hole in it, so I think it's starting to dry up, but it does work. And then I'm going to put weight on those and let them completely dry. Once they're done, I'm using my little jeweler's hammer just to hammer down the other sides to make sure they're nice and flat, but especially the corners. As you can see, it starts to round out the corner. That makes it so it's safe and won't scratch anyone. Now this little thing, this little art supply, I don't even know what it is. I got it in a mystery box and it didn't say what type of supply it is. And it's for kids. It said something about kids on the package, so it's a children's art supply. So it's probably not permanent. But I'm gonna use that a little bit to gild on here as well as my bronze paint. And you can see here there's now tea in that cup. I did, again, of course, off camera, put some tea in there using resin. And then I decided the edges look better darker, so I'm using Merlot instead of the white on these front edges. And I'm just using more bronze paint to just dry brush on the flowers in there. Getting tongue-tied again. Now I'm aging a little bit on the back. The first thing I was doing was archival inks, but those won't get into these little cracks around the metal parts. So I'm using a brown wash, and The recipe for that is from Black Magic Craft, so if you're interested in using washes, that's the one I use. You can go watch one of his videos to see how to make that. Plus, I don't even think mine's made right, honestly. I didn't have the exact same ingredients that he had. Anyways, I used a marker to write my signature, and then I'm going back over it with the bronze paint. I also used the bronze paint on the lip of that teacup. I wanted a little bit of gold, but I also want it to be mostly bronze because bronze is my accent color. And then I just keep going around here and there and adding the bronze paint to stuff. I just want to make everything kind of pretty and shiny. I do also go over the whole box with one more coat of Mod Podge at the end because, like I said, I don't know if that kids art supply crayon thing is permanent, so I wanted to make sure it wasn't going to rub off. You'll have to excuse my shaky camera work. I have a noodle arm, and also sometimes my phone doesn't like to focus. But hopefully it's not the worst ever. And I don't remember if I mentioned it earlier, but I did go over the teapot and teacup with Super Gloss Mod Podge to make them look more like porcelain. And that little key there is actually a flat back button that was part of a set of buttons I got at Walmart. Whoops, that's not supposed to be there. Just ignore that. And here's a fun little added feature. You can make it look like it's haunted. Ooh. Oh, sorry. Anyways, I wanted to show you the Scrabble set because it's amazing. As you can see, it comes with the bag and the scorecards. The book came with it. All the letters are gold plated. And then the base is two-tone wood. And it even has the little fancy Scrabble logos attached on the sides. And then in the front, the little handle that you pull the drawer out with says Scrabble on it. It's fantastico. And to the rest of you, I mean, Auntie, you can subscribe if you want to, but don't feel obligated. So thank you for watching. I just wanted to say that I know I keep not making my goal of posting videos every Friday. So I will say this, I promise to have at least one video a month. Hopefully somewhere between 1 and 4 videos a month. It really depends on my schedule and what I have time for. It also depends on how complicated the project ends up being. I do have a full-time job, so sometimes I cannot always reach my goal of one video every Friday. That being said, I hope that you can find some time to waste some talent. And also, tell me about the talent that you waste. Do you make miniatures? Do you like miniatures? What do you like to do for fun, for crafts? Comment below. I haven't talked to you guys in a while. I don't get any comments anymore. I feel lonely.
Tell me about your life. Okay, until next time, stay healthy, stay safe.
Okay, Georgie. Look at the camera. You're the worst. Cooperate. Cooperate. Look up here, dude. Really?